I try to buy everything online.
I think there's just some, I think there are market experts that have a better opinion, like yourself.
Oh, what are the differences, the main differences between the Middle East and, for example, what you saw in Germany or in UK?
Rider efficiency, cost efficiency, and also customer experience.
Oh, I heard recently from a very talented CFO of Frohlich that retail is detail. And it's all about numbers.
I think it is a very dynamic market.
How do you guys manage to cope with these challenges?
Rider rating vendor metric.
Middle East is, from my personal experience, one of the most challenging places.
Being honest with you, that was also my biggest concern before I took up the job in 2022.
How different one app can be from the operations perspective.
There is a lot of responsibility that all aggregators do have.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the food delivery podcast, Boolanga Business Talks. And that's the first experimental live version from the studio. We used to always do that online and used to always speak with our fabulous guests in Zoom, and now for the first time we're meeting with our guest in the studio, and I'm super excited to meet today with Khee Lim and to introduce you the world of Talabat. Super excited to have you today and very excited about our conversation. Thank you very much for joining.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for making me your guinea pig for this live session. I'm sure we're good.
It's going to be fun. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining. Khee, can you please introduce yourself? You have a lot of experience in food delivery. You have a lot of experience in logistics. Can you please share about yourself, about your journey, where it started, and where you're at right now?
Sounds good. So, chronologically speaking, born and raised in Singapore, very similar to Dubai as a place to live in. I studied in London, economics, where, I think it was a very good, first foray into the world outside of Singapore. My first job was in consulting. So, as you all know, consulting is a very demanding corporate job. And food delivery, back then, Deliveroo just started in 2013, I believe, which coincided with my first 2 years in consulting. I can guarantee you that, every time, after 8 p.m., I will open up my food delivery app, order the Chinese food that is like 15 minutes away, and that will be the highlight of my day.
Nice.
So suffice to say, in consulting, food delivery was really, really, really a quote-unquote lifesaver for me at that particular point in time. After being a power user of Deliveroo back then, Deliveroo actually reached out to me for a role in operations. And that for me was super intriguing, where, I decided to change my life of, suits and ties to the world of, t-shirts and shorts. And I never looked back since. So that was me in Deliveroo in 2016 in London, where it was my first time doing operations, something very hands-on. And I rose, up to become in a global team, still doing operations, really understanding a lot more about the nuances and the fascination of what operations really is in this good industry. Launched Kuwait, launched Taiwan as part of my favorite projects, and had the opportunity to move to Dubai in 2020. Just before COVID, to have the first hands-on experience of running an operations team during COVID for food delivery, which is, we all know is a critical sector back in the days.
Oh, yeah.
So that was fun. Really exciting, still with Deliveroo in Dubai back then. And I decided to, opt from 10,000 to 100,000 to 0 to 1. And I packed my bags and went to Germany to launch Foodpanda Germany, the logistics arm of it, which is a very short-lived but very illuminating experience of starting up a food delivery arm, within Germany. But as luck would have it, now I'm back in Dubai, in Talabat for the last 2.5 years. Really, overseeing 8 markets. Each of them are so different, but so, I would say, exciting as well. And really, really loving my role so far in making an impact beyond just, filling people's stomachs.
Super exciting. Thank you very much for the intro. And I'm very excited for this conversation. We were talking about potentially doing the podcast together for like a year, I think. And finally, we're here. And as a first question about the food delivery business, you mentioned that you worked at Deliveroo, you launched Foodpanda in Germany, and you had experience overviewing and working with different markets. In Europe, in the Middle East, in Asia.
Yep.
Can you please share what are the differences, the main differences between the Middle East and, for example, what you saw in Germany or in UK?
Yeah. I think the key difference between Middle East and Europe is the employment type of the riders. I think in Europe there is a lot of emphasis on freelancers, especially in the UK where I was with Deliveroo. In Germany, all the riders had to be employed, whether or not you work 3 hours a month or 60 hours a month. So that has this whole host of challenges as well. And in the Middle East, as we don't directly engage with riders, we engage them through third-party fleet partners. It adds another level of complexity because you have two stakeholders to manage when it comes to operations. I think this, leads to very different exam questions that we're trying to solve at very different parts of the journey. Another thing that I thought was quite interesting is that regardless of which, I would say, country or market you are in, this whole gig economy question is always front and center of the regulators. I think it is a new way of working where it affords some sort of flexibility and certainty, and I think everyone's just scratching their heads to kind of make it work whilst protecting the rights of some of the workers as well.
Wow, interesting. And currently your role is the senior director of logistics for the Talabat regionally across all 8 markets. What are the key areas of focus that you're working on now and that are a priority for Talabat?
Yeah. I think there are... I can, this will last a whole podcast, but I'll shortlist to, I would say 2. I think the first one is on customer experience. I think that is something that, makes Talabat. We are reliable. We are hopefully faster in speed in most markets. And we are a household name in a lot of the kind of like population in this region. I think Talabat literally means like to order in Arabic.
Yeah.
So I think that association is there. But I think customer experience is really about raising the bar higher and higher such that we don't surprise and delight per se, but we really want to ensure that, people don't really have to think about it the moment they press, place order.
Yeah.
And given the nuance of the customer, the rider, the fleet partner, and the restaurant, and our supermarkets, I think making all of these click together for the lots of orders that we deliver every day becomes more and more challenging. So I think that's the first priority that is always top of mind. I think the second one is on riders. So I think, as I mentioned, the riders are through fleet partners, and most of them are expat riders. And I think whilst it is really meaningful and purposeful to create employment opportunities for this kind of 5-6 figure fleet that we work with, the sense of responsibility is also there. So really thinking about their welfare, what we can do legally, and also how can we make that experience just a little bit better is also always top of mind as well, because it's not an easy job.
Very interesting. And from the perspective of the company, as we already touched the areas of your focus, food delivery business as a marketplace is much more sophisticated than many people think, right? It's a 3-end marketplace where you have eaters, where you have the vendors, restaurants, and where you have riders. And as the riders are one of your key areas of focus, and Middle East is, from my personal experience, one of the most challenging places to operate the food delivery because of climate. We are right now recording, and outside it feels like 60 degrees, and the regulations are tough, and the customer expectations are very tough, right? It's a very high-end markets where everybody is accustomed to very special experience. What do you guys do for the riders to make their job more efficient and to make their lives better?
Yeah, I think you kind of hit the nail on the head, right? I think it is a very challenging role for the riders, especially at this time of the year. I think what we as a company really try to invest our time and efforts on is just to make this delivering in summer experience just a little bit better. I think we across the region really focus a fair bit on rider rest areas, buses in the more common areas, and also partner very closely with restaurants to offer a good air-conditioned waiting area so that riders can have a bit of a breather and not be exposed to the sun whilst being on an order. On top of that, we've also worked very closely, on providing good summer equipment like thermal water bottles, snoots, as well as windshields, just to make delivering just a bit better. And I think last but not least, there's also a lot of partnerships with different conglomerates to give out, ice creams, cold beverages, so on and so forth, just to amplify that impact. I think on the customer expectations part, I do believe, at least in Dubai, I think more and more customers are a bit more attuned to the experience outside. And I think to an extent, I think more and more customers are also being a bit more understanding, I think, on the orders when they place it, during the afternoon. But there's a lot more that we have done, and there's a lot more we can do. And I think that's why, what makes our job very exciting.
It's super exciting. And I think it's worth mentioning that you guys have very big teams working on it, and a lot of people who are super passionate about really making the lives of couriers better. And I had experience working with many members of those teams, and it's super exciting how you guys are really trying to make it better, to make it more exciting for the riders themselves and for the customers, and the initiatives that you do for the riders stepping up, bringing the families, going to the families, and actually having the right and enough time to rest and to recharge for the difficult day-to-day work in the difficult environment is very exciting.
Good to hear.
One of the questions that I wanted to raise with you today is the general market landscape. Talabat has quite strong positions on the market, and there is very strong competition as well, right? There is Careem, Noon, Deliveroo, and other local players, if we go in deeper into each market specifics. And all those players are very strong, experienced, have deep pockets, right? And that makes it, from my point of view, quite exciting for the customer and for the observer of the market, right? How would you describe the current landscape and where is this trajectory going to take us in the future?
I think it is a very dynamic market, and I think having all of these competitors actually makes our jobs more fun. Of course, the customer will win because there's more choice. But I also think having this level of competition does make everyone bring their A game on. I think from a customer proposition perspective, it's always we talk about choice, which is what restaurants you can see on your app. Talk about service, which is how reliable you are, how fast you are. And price, which is how expensive or how cheap you are from a delivery fees and a kind of like item level pricing perspective. I think having this level of competition really brings, commoditize all of these propositions to a level that is, one would say, like top in class, which I think is ultimately great for the customers. It just makes us become better. And I really, really like that. I think the second part, as part of this dynamic, is that it also makes us a lot more creative to try to differentiate ourselves. And different, players have very different strategies. Careem has their super app,
Right.
As we all know, Noon and Noon.com, I think that is a very obvious, synergy.
Amazon of the Middle East, right?
Yeah, and Talabat, what we're trying to do is to have a proper ecosystem, with like the Abu Dhabi credit card, for example, with Talabat Pro, things like that, to try to really kind of make sure that, not to make sure, but to promote customers to just, have more orders on our platform. So I think it's a very interesting, way to see the different options to stand out. And I think that's what makes our job a lot more fun. And also keep us on our toes to ensure, every order is delivered to the best that we can as well.
Right. And what do you think from the market dynamics perspective? Is it eventually going to make the service faster or better, increase the choices, or is there going to be more consolidation coming into the picture as we go forward? What do you think the market is going to look like in, 5 years, maybe 10 years, or in 3 years?
Good question. Regarding consolidation, I really don't know. I think that's just some, I think there are market experts that have a better opinion, like yourself. I think that in terms of what does that mean for the proposition, I think it will continuously become better. I hope that is the case. But there's also natural limits where it becomes commoditized.
Right.
You really don't need to see 5,000 restaurants on your app to make a decision. And there's also like physical limits of how fast we can get an order to your doorstep, even if we're right in front of you. So I think there is those constraints that I think we should be mindful of. I think with regards to, what the next 3 year could look like, I think, for me, it's hard to predict the future. For me, what I think actually is probably more conducive and constructive is to really think, or at least that's something I do with my team, to think about our stakeholders, riders, customers, vendors, and what, in 2026, 2027, what would we like to have accomplished, so that, what is the story they will tell if they are working with Talabat by then. So I think that for me is a more aspirational way of looking at it rather than trying to predict what would naturally happen. I'd rather actively work on it to the benefit of these stakeholders as well.
Amazing. And do you think that in the future, the on-demand logistics that we are experiencing now within the food delivery and grocery delivery already, do you think that this is something that can potentially be something like running water for everything? I mean, iPhone, fashion, anything. Because especially in the Middle East, it is a thing where you can get anything done delivered to you from the app. You want laundry, you got it. You want flowers, you got it. You want medicine, anything you can imagine. Do you think that the next generation who are currently in their 20s, or maybe the kids who are 10, 15 years old now, will not imagine the life without their everything app, food delivery app, whatever you call it, in the upcoming future, especially in Dubai? Because here, I mean, it's fabulous how many riders on the streets, what is the choice that you can get on the app, and the services that you can get from the app. Is it really going to become like the only habit? Because this is how I imagine it personally.
I think it's a very good question. I think, well, with the pandemic, it literally uplifted penetration. People who never order online had to order online. Let's hope there's no more pandemic so that we would, this doesn't
Fingers
happen.
crossed.
I think the next, run where these habits converge would really be if aggregators and vendors or merchants in general are able to replicate the experience of shopping in store to the point that shopping online has the same level of trust
Right.
and credibility for it to then be second nature, right? For instance, shopping in supermarkets where you buy fresh produce, you do need to want to check the produce, your
Yeah.
meats, your fruits, to make sure they're in good conditions.
Right.
And having that level of trust and certainty while doing it in app, I think is also important, right? Same for me when I go for when I buy garlic, I hate it when garlic has that, has the green shoots, because I know that's not the most palatable. But if I buy online, they always come with those green shoots. So I'm like, it's not like for like substitutable. And same for electronics as well, right? I think there are a lot of platforms that are selling branded products, and it's a lot of money. I struggle to personally want to buy an Xbox 5 over an aggregator. But there are people who do that. But having that trust and saying that, look, the experience, the warranties, the after sales service, if the product is malfunctioning, it's the same as if I bought it in store from, I don't know, Sharaf DG or whatever. It's the same. Then I think that habit will actually be very realistic, because it's easier.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Let's see where it takes it.
Yeah. Will you buy an iPhone from the app?
Oh, I'm such a evangelist of the online purchasing. I try to buy everything online, and not just try, but I don't know. I think my lifestyle and my habits are super accustomed to buying anything online. So definitely yes, and this is where I see the future.
Yeah.
Groceries, food delivery, electronics.
Yeah.
Shoes, whatever you name it, everything will go online. And I think that this is where it's going. Of course, customer experience is key. Of course, price proposal is key.
Yeah.
Of course, there are many parts to it. And very important role in it is logistics, right? And we know that it is a very interesting and it is a very deep area, and managing supply and demand on the food delivery, grocery delivery marketplaces is key.
Yeah.
And I really wonder, how do you guys do it on such a massive scale on 8 markets with I don't know how many hundreds of thousands of customers and eaters and couriers and whatnot. How do you guys manage it? What are the key metrics that you track? What is the secret sauce for Talabat success?
Yeah.
Tell us the story.
So I think it really starts by having a good team, which I think I'm very thankful for in Talabat, where I think we all have a very unified mantra on what good looks like for the customer and for the riders. I think the second is having good tools. I think we are part of Delivery Hero, where they build all the in-house tools on rider staffing, rider dispatching algorithm, and many other in-house, I would say, applications that really help us bring to life what we have on to do what's right when it comes to managing supply and demand. I think being a bit more tangible, I think with a demand perspective, it's really about collaboration with the markets, because they really do know best about what holidays is coming up. What is the likelihood of a dip in summer as people fly out to for holidays. They have a very good blend of historical patterns and upcoming probabilistic guesses to really tell us what that demand could look like. I think they are really astute in knowing what the mix of the orders would be, food versus grocery, and all of these are very critical inputs for demand. And the more accurate they are through active collaboration, I think it sets the scene for what we then need to staff when it comes to riders. So I think with that in mind, the demand part, hopefully, is a simplified version of how it's actually done. Then we go to the supply part of it, which is what logistics comes to play. I think for supply, it's really understanding, what is the right balance and what's the right level of productivity to target for that best balances rider efficiency, cost efficiency, and also customer experience. It's one metric that governs this triangle of trade-offs. And with that in mind, and that differs across time of day of week, and even cities. With that in mind, through a lot of optimization and trial and error, we then work backwards to understand how many riders we need that day, and then we work backwards to understand how many riders we need in the fleet to accommodate for that. So again, oversimplifying it, but it's really through active collaboration and planning, and just working really backwards to then ensure that we stand the best chance to offer a good customer experience at that point in time. I think the final nuance here, which I think I sometimes have to explain to my internal colleagues, is food delivery for now there are different peaks and troughs, right? Lunch and dinner being the big ones, weekends being the peak of the peak.
Seasonality in general, right?
As well, correct. But even within the same week, you have that intra-week seasonality. Do we hire and staff riders for that 1 hour peak of the peak on a Friday evening or Thursday evening if you're not in UAE, so that that 1 hour has the best experience at the expense of lower productivity and earnings in the remaining hours? Or do you find a sweet spot where that you'll be slightly undersupplied during the peak hours and slightly oversupplied in the non-peak hours? And I think that is actually the fun part, because there's really no right answer. But we try. It's a lot of try and error, and I think it will only get better.
Very cool. To be honest, having spent quite a significant part of 2023 and 2024 in the Middle East, and I mean, it was Kuwait, Iraq, Qatar, and collaborating a lot with Talabat, I was really amazed how developed food delivery is in the region. I was super pumped about the variety of choices on the platforms. And I was very impressed by the localization level that you have. And what I mean is that on every market, you have local teams that have a lot of power and a lot of initiatives that they can drive themselves and they're taking themselves, and how different one app can be from the operations perspective. How do you guys manage it on such a big scale? I mean, Oman is very different from Jordan, and Jordan is super different from UAE, and UAE is super different from Kuwait, right? Correct. Even though for people who are outside of the Middle East, it might sound like the same kind of region, like many people think about Europe, right? The European market is the same, even though it's not at all, right?
Very true.
How do you guys build this culture within Talabat, where on one hand you have the regional team who is running a lot of initiatives on one hand, on the other hand you have the local teams of superstars who are making things happen locally and are actually making things better for the bigger corporation?
I think it's a very good question, and also really happy you picked that up as your observation. I think it's a tale of two sides. I think the first part is, as I mentioned before, we're part of Delivery Hero, which has acquired multiple brands. Ergo, the products that they built internally are meant to cater to very different employee rider types and also very different nuances, so that the local entities like Talabat can function and operate that in a way that's tailored to their respective audience, and this translates downwards to the local markets as well. So, number one, I think the nature of how the organization is set up, I think lends itself to that level of customizability, which I think is great. It's definitely not like that in the past companies I worked for, but this one is great. I think the second part is, the ways of working between the regional and the local teams. I think when I joined in Talabat in 2022, 2022, I guess. Yeah, 2022. My mantra to my team, which is a small team back then of like say 17, now it's 50, is the power of the regional team is not to do 100% of the thinking and the execution. The power of it is to do 60 to 70% of it, such that we have a good mainframe and a good architecture or SOP. And for the local teams to take that, localize, nuancify it, and execute. And that's where we get to 95%. We never get to 100%. And I think that really kind of rings true across all the functions as we become more specialized in terms of how we problem solve together with the local teams. And I think that for me, it's quote unquote the magic sauce that I'm really proud that my team, both local and regionals, are able to find a way to have that, to achieve that. Because the problems are really different. I can guarantee you that. I think I've visited all the markets in my stint here, except for Iraq. And the types of problems, the profile, the challenges, the rider performance issues that we see, it's just night and day. And I think it's like one size fit all would just fail disastrously if we adopted that. So I'm happy to that is working out the way it is today.
I think it's working out pretty great. And I think we see that in numbers, in Talabat's growth. And I think we can experience it just ordering something on Talabat.
So, yeah.
And my next question would be running these complex operations is all about numbers. I heard recently from a very talented CFO of Frohlich that retail is detail, and it's all about numbers. It's all about nuances, as you said it yourself. What are the metrics that you track on regular basis, daily, weekly, monthly? What is it that you really pay attention to in your position?
Yeah. So the key level metrics would be everything related to the customer. So we look at orders on time and orders late. We do look at delivery time, but that could be a confluence of how far we deliver. So it may not be the most accurate metric. We look at fail rate. So how often do orders fail? Because that's categorically the worst experience. And we also look sometimes at the intermediary metrics, which is rider late and vendor late. So I think looking at these gives a very holistic view of top line. Are we doing what we should be doing, which is service, giving good service to customers, and then dissect and diagnose where the problem areas could look like. I think we, on a monthly level, we look at rider-related metrics and fleet partner metrics. So we have fleet partner net promoter score, we have rider satisfaction score, and we have rider chat satisfaction as well, just so that we get a sense of, these things don't move every day, but looking at it on a monthly basis does give us a bit of comfort that we're moving in the right direction, and being able to explain if something is going well or not so well and course correct accordingly. So those were my two types of metrics that I look at. I think the final part is, a lot of it is mostly input metrics. So for example, supply hours, like how many we need versus how many we've got. Staffing efficiency, how well we staff the fleet, so on and so forth. I think we had a very new, interesting metric this year that we've introduced called rider rating vendor metric, where we have a functionality of riders being able to rate the vendor or the restaurant after every order, with a bit of a toggle of what are the reasons if you're happy or if you're not so happy with that experience, and we actually take action on it. And I think this is a very important stepping stone to build that affinity between the different players in that same ecosystem. Right, we really want vendors to treat riders well, and we really want riders to also empathize the pressure in the restaurant as well. So how do we make that relationship a lot better? Because it's going to be win-win if we fix that.
Absolutely. Super exciting.
Yeah.
Talabat is a super digitalized, driven company, but at the same time, it is a very old, in a good way, local brand, right? It was born in the Middle East, and it went through a lot of M&As and acquisitions, and there were a lot of things happening to Talabat in the past years. Acquisitions of new companies, acquisitions by Delivery Hero, and so on and so forth. That obviously builds a baggage, right? And it has some legacy inside of Talabat of what IT products are used, what are the processes that are implemented for different areas. And I'm sure that with the pace of the speed that Talabat has right now, it can create some bottlenecks, right? Because some things that were working in 2015 are not working in 2020 and obviously not working in 2024, right? How do you guys manage to cope with these challenges? Because I'm sure that in such a big organization, there are many of those.
You know, being honest with you, that was also my biggest concern before I took up the job in 2022. But, you know, 2 years in, I really think that it's not even a concern. Actually, the reason why I say that is because I think internally, the management team, the country, you know, managing directors, heads of functions, we move very quickly. It's a very dynamic, fast-paced company where, you know, a week feels like, you know, a month for good reasons because things move that quickly. And the capacity of, you know, my team and my colleagues who are able to really grapple with so many different priorities and just execute relentlessly, I think it is, it's actually admirable. You know, yes, you know, there may be quote unquote legacy, but I also take some pride in the fact that, you know, with Delivery Hero, you know, tools and support in the central teams, it really helps us get best practices quickly from, you know, the, 51 other markets they operate in. I don't even know how many, but it's quite a lot. So there is very limited kind of like reinventing the wheel to try to make it work because they also have to keep up with the dynamism of all the other entities that they have recently acquired or have acquired for a long time. So I think this kind of like really, the culture itself kind of like, I would say, supersedes this potential, you know, potential lack that one might think. And I think that is particularly the reason why I think in the last 2.5 years, it has been really, the changes we have seen has been quite monumental. And I think it's only going to be more like that as, you know, as I mentioned, the competitions are also, you know, giving us a bit of the run for the money with, you know, within reason. So, yeah.
Very cool. I have my last question, and it's a little bit personal. Every time I'm in Dubai, we try to meet and have some coffee and talk about the industry and talk about the developments. And every time I get so many cool energies from you, how passionate you are about the industry, how passionate you are about the riders to make their life better, to make Talabat better. And you're always excited about the new things that you're going to do and the new projects that you're going to run. And I think last time we spoke with you, you said that like there is so much ahead of us. It makes me so excited. And like even if we make, 50% of that, it's going to be super cool. Where is it coming from?
So, thank you. I think, where is it coming from? I think there is a lot of responsibility that all aggregators do have. As I mentioned, you know, we work with a very vast fleet that are mostly expats. And with that, they also have very families that they're supporting. So it means that our impact is amplified. I don't think there are many jobs like these right now that has that same sense of purpose and magnitude. And I think that's a reason why it is very important and also meaningful for me to have this opportunity at this stage of my career to do some of that changes. So that is what makes me very excited every day. I think the complexity of the questions we solve are also really very difficult, because sometimes it crosses, not crosses, but it really requires a balancing act of running a business.
Yeah.
Right? It has to be profitable at the end of the day, versus some sort of like values. What is a good earning and how do we get there? And also just really tough problems that we have to work with the industry to solve. So for me, it's the complexity of the problems that also gets me very passionate. And I think last but not least, I mentioned to you in my introduction, I'm a consultant in my past life, which means I get bored quite easily.
Yeah.
So having a plethora of challenging problems to solve, be it vendor delay, be it rider welfare, be it fleet partner satisfaction, be it, making my team, regional and local, work better together. All of these kind of coming together actually makes just this job just a whole lot of fun.
Thank you, Khee. It was a great pleasure. I think we are super lucky to have such intelligent and passionate people like you in the industry, who is driving the growth of it in the region and globally. Because again, whatever is happening in Europe sooner or later happens here, and whatever is happening in the Middle East sooner or later happens across the globe. It's super exciting. If there is anything you would like to share with the audience about Talabat, about anything,
I think,
please welcome.
Of course, I think you've rightly mentioned. I think it's more like a call to action. Is the conditions during summer is definitely not the most palatable. And I think it's just more of a encouragement for customers, like yourself and myself, to be kinder to riders, regardless of which aggregator they work with. Giving cold water or facial wipes, when they deliver your order as an appreciation, I think really costs short of almost nothing.
Yes.
And also tip. I think I think a lot of apps make it so easy to tip. And I think all little things like that, these are gestures that will add up and go a long way. And I think that's something that I just want to share with whoever is watching or listening to this, basically.
Absolutely, guys. Tip the riders well. Be kind, and give the water, and of course order online, and like and subscribe to the channel. Hope you enjoyed this podcast, and Khee, thank you very much.
Thanks
it was
for having
great
me.
pleasure talking.
Indeed. Thanks.
Thank you.